All right, jury selection in the case for Sean Diddy Combs begins today. The rapper facing several sex trafficking and racketeering charges, which he has pleaded not guilty to. So far, the defense team's jury vetting includes a 72-question jurors survey, which is pretty long. So here to explain the significance of that and the trial as a whole, defense attorney Josh Kolsrud. So Josh, always great talking to you.
Thank you.
72 questions. How odd is that? How different is that?
Well, in a huge case like this involving a mogul, an icon, it's actually not surprising. Also, because the allegations involve some type of sex crime, they had to pay particular attention to finding fair and impartial jurors. So I think it's par for the course.
It says the prosecution has thought that was excessive. I would think they would want fair and impartial as well, right?
They do, but what they want is a fast and speedy trial. What they don't want is the defense to prolong the process, because it may create a situation where they can hopefully, in their terms, confuse the issues.
Yeah. So prosecutors have interviewed over 50 victims, and you're thinking that more are going to come forward. What's the situation with that?
Yeah. So very interestingly here, usually defense attorneys want to prolong the process. They want to take years even before a case gets to trial, but not in this case, because in this case, you keep having more and more victims come forward. So, when this case was filed a little over 8 or 9 months ago, you only had 1 or 2 victims. Now, the prosecutor has gone back to the grand jury 3 separate times, adding charges, and now you have 5 victims. And what the defense doesn't want is for this case to turn into another Harvey Weinstein type of case where they have 20 victims, and the evidence is so overwhelming that there really is no defense.
Well, speaking of the defense, it looks like the defense is going to say that it was because of a swinger lifestyle. How's that going to go over with jurors?
Yeah, so the defense is going to look for jurors during jury selection that are not going to judge Sean Puffy Combs for having an alternative lifestyle. They do not want jurors who are going to judge him based on that. And they're going to say that he was living the rock and roll lifestyle and that everything that he did was consensual, including his relationship with Miss Ventura, who really kicked off the entire investigation.
So you're a prosecutor going into this case. Do you see this as more difficult because of how famous he is, or less difficult?
So, having a celebrity always throws a wrench into the equation. The jurors that are going to be on this case are going to be celebrities in themselves,
right,
whether they like it or not.
Right.
And because of that, it is a wild card, and it could affect, how the jurors ultimately see, guilt or innocence.
Yeah, how long do you think this thing's going to go?
Well, the prosecutor told the judge last week that they expect the trial to be about 3 weeks for their case. And then, reviewing the court record, the defense attorney said that if they put on a defense, it shouldn't last more than a week. So if their estimates are right, it'll be about 4 weeks. But I'll tell you, the last time we had a huge case like this with this huge of a celebrity, it was the O.J. Simpson case.
Right, yeah.
And in that case, jury selection took 11 weeks.
I remember that.
So,
yeah.
We could be here for quite a while.
Is this going to be televised?
So in federal court,
it's federal court.
Yep,
Okay,
they do not allow it to be televised. Yeah. So we're going to be getting most of our information from reporters that are on scene.
Do you think this is going to be explosive at times?
It's going to be explosive because it's going to involve salacious videos. The prosecution has given notice that they're going to play at least 9 different videos. And a lot of those may have different celebrities that are in the videos that we know of. And we also may hear from celebrities who would testify at trial. So I do think that there's going to be some explosions here.
All right. Well, Josh, thank you for your input. We'll see.
Thank you.
See how this plays out.